Welcome to the Channel Surfers. This is the podcast where channel sales leaders, myself, Jeff Lennon, and my great friend here, John McCabe. Hey, John, how are you?
I'm good, Jeff. How you doing?
Awesome. So I'm kind of taking the wheel today. So if we hit that rocky, bumpy stuff, people will understand why. But today, what we wanted to dive into is John and I had a great conversation about a little more than a week and a half ago. And I wanted to take the opportunity, or I should say, we wanted to take the opportunity to kind of dig into it. So here was the question. So have you ever wondered why some vendors become that go-to-market partner or that go-to partner for a vendor, right? Have you ever wondered that? And really, why is that? And John, after talking with you, I mean, and you've been down this path a handful of times, right? You know, your answer was it's simple, right? You need to help them make money, right? Which I get. So with that, I want to kind of come back and ask you the question, right? Talk to me about like where did that come from, and because you've created some really cool tools that you're gonna talk through today.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's all about the money, right? I want to make money, and the partners we work with, they want to make money. And I think the epiphany for me was a couple of years ago. I was at RSA, and I sat down with our very big partners, and they whipped out this gigantic binder with everything that they've been doing with us, opportunity pipeline, marketing, everything. And they whipped up this page, and it was their gross profit, and they said, you're only at 12% GP with us, and we require 15%. So you got to do some work to get back to that. And I was like, whoa, okay. And I was actually new to the company, so I really didn't know the whole picture. But I thought, yeah, and I've been very aware of that ever since. And with gross profit, that's how a partner makes his money. That's how he makes his number. And you have to build that into your margin, and you have to be very conscious about that. And I think a lot of times we see reps that try to cut away margin from a partner, not realizing they might make a little more money, but your partner's not going to make a lot of money. And guess what? Maybe they don't want to come back to you with a deal, So gross profit, I think, is an important topic your sales team needs to have with you as a partner leader. You need to have with your sales team. And then you need to work with your partners to understand how they operate with regard to their gross profit, right?
Oh, absolutely. So why don't you explain? I mean, just take a minute, right, and just not to kind of overstep it, but kind of explain a little bit what do you mean by gross profit? Because it's got a common theme or a common message, but sometimes it varies a little bit between VARs, MSPs, MSSPs, for example.
Yeah. Very good question. Because with a reseller, the gross profit is that part of your margin that you're offering to them that contributes to their overall number and how they make money, right? You're giving a partner a 25% margin. Anything below 20 is probably squeezing them out of their overall gross profit, right? They're going to attach your margin onto their quote to the customer, and they may mark up your margin if they see that you're not giving them enough margin, right? And then you might be in a situation where the customer's like, oh, it's too expensive. So you want to make sure you're conscientious of what you're giving to a partner so they can fit their margin in, or their gross profit, and they won't overdo it on the pricing, and you won't lose on price, right? But I think overall, the gross profit is that key for a reseller to make their money, make their number. Gross profit for an MSSP, little different. I mean, they got to make a margin on their deal, but their GP is based on services as well. You've got to factor in license price, services price to equal that GP, that gross profit that they're going to be making their money on. Services, of course, is 100% of their profit, but license is a killer for that, right? Like if you chop into their services deal with overpriced license, they're not going to make their GP, right? And there's an equation, and I don't have it off the top of my head, but I did a lot of research with MSSPs to find out what it was. It was a perfect price for my license, and they outlined that equation. It was basically license times service dollars equals my GP, or how they figure out to get to the GP, right? And I think overall, if you're dealing with resellers, MSSPs, anybody who's making money and helping you make money off your product, you gotta be conscientious of that so they can come back to you with more opportunity.
I love that.
Mhm.
Actually, and again, not to poke fun at it, but you know, I'm going to digress. When I was back in school and I was taking algebra, which we all did, right? Everybody's like, when am I ever going to use this? You just described an algebraic equation because you got to take some different components and different factors, and sometimes you may not know one of variables, but you
Mhm.
still got to figure it out for X, so to speak. But I think that's super powerful.
Yeah.
And to your point, I think sometimes people confuse gross margin and gross profit, right? The margin is what you're getting on the deal, but then you've got to take out all your costs and your whatever your overhead cost is for the business to do what you do, and then you
Mhm.
have gross profit so that the company has money. That's how you get to do things, not just cover the cost of things.
Correct.
So I thought that was great.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah,
so
if you solve that problem for an MSSP, for example, if your product is priced right for them so they can make good GP, they're going to come back and buy from you forever, right? And again, what is it everyone is looking for? It's they want to make money, right? And I think one of the points I was going to talk about is like tension between partners and vendors because we try as a vendor to make the most money on our side. And in the process, we're cutting the partner out from making money on their side. And not just the partner rep, but it's the partner company. The company has a gross profit number that they're trying to get to, and you got to help them get there. It's all about being a good partner. I think reps sell themselves short by taking margin away, thinking they're not going to make a lot of money on this deal and they want to make more money. But if they give a little bit here, guess what? They're going to have 5 deals that are lined up after the fact, and they're going to still make a lot of money on those 5 deals, right?
absolutely, there's an old saying in sales, and I think it's very much in line with what you just described. And it's pigs get fed, hogs get slaughtered.
That's right. Yeah,
You want everybody wants to make money, but don't be a hog. Don't take it to the point where because you're going to cut your own throat in the long
exactly.
run, right? Or even
Exactly.
looking at it from look at it from the macro of what you're trying to do with the business and that partnership, not just that individual single deal. I mean, anybody that's worked in channel partnerships, I mean, everybody you've been there where you're dealing with that singular opportunity, and then it's such a tough pill for people to swallow. They're not looking at the bigger macro of what's going on with that partnership and the value that they're going to get, right? And to just say to a rep like, hey man, if we do this, like, there's going to be some repetitive deals that now come down the pike because you're going to have somebody in your corner wanting to work with you and help you sell your stuff to other customers that you're not even in front of today.
Mm-hmm.
uh, and they all think it's just smoke and mirrors, but no, I think that's awesome. What
Yep.
do you see is really some of the the killers of that? What would you
Mm.
say are some of the GP killers out there?
Well, shaving margin away. How many conversations you had? Let me give the scenario. Your rep comes to you and says, "Hey, I have shaved my price down as much as I can. I don't have any more margin for the partner. What are we going to do?" And I have to go to the partner and say, "Hey, we don't have. We're kind of at our bare bones. We've cut into bone now on our price, and we might need to shave a little margin off." I always try to say, "I'll give you a little margin on the next deal," but that's a killer. Some reps are pretty nice about it, and they're like, "Don't worry about it. You're bringing me into this deal. I didn't have this deal before. I'll take a haircut, right?" But when you keep repeating that process as a rep all the time, that's when you start to lose respect, and partners don't want to work with you. I try to encourage my reps to think about our margin when you're pricing a deal before you price a deal. Never quote a customer a price without the partner being involved. I had a situation with a rep recently where he quoted a customer and didn't even go to the partner first. And I said, "What are you doing?" I go, now we're gonna have to backpedal on our margin and give the partner, the benefits so they can meet their GP. And he's like, "No, we're not doing that." I'm like, "Well, yeah, you're gonna do that because you shouldn't quote a customer." He's like, "Well, they asked me for it." Just say, "Excuse me, we go through partners. I'm gonna put a partner quote together and we'll get back to you." Right? Those are the things that just don't help you grow your business. And it's a shame because it's such a simple thing, and I always tell reps, don't worry about your margin as much. Revenue is revenue is revenue. If you put a number up on the board, who's going to be off your back? The CRO, your VP, your director. You're putting
Every
numbers up. What's that?
everybody, right?
Everybody. Right?
You can put
Yeah,
numbers on the board, it gets everybody off your back, right? That's the whole
exactly.
point. You
Yep,
get to walk up that mountain without all that extra weight. But so
exactly.
so talk to me about when I start thinking about the partners, right, and what partners want from vendors. Talk to me about how do you help drive more GP with a vendor? What are some of the tactical things that you can do, outside of just
Mm.
managing the cost model?
First thing that comes to my head is if a partner is has services that they offer, implementation services. I try to get them involved early in a deal to, if our margin has to go down a little bit, at least they have services that 100%, commissionable to them. We don't make anything on services, they do, right? And if you add services to their deal on my license, it's always a big thing, and they like that, right? They're getting two paychecks, and services are a way to win their favor. I have a partner who they've told me that they do services only, and they've said, John, you bring us into a service opportunity, that's the way we grow our business. And I'm like, okay, good, that's good for me, and I think it's just smart business to get them involved that way, because then they learn your product, they like it. They could talk about it, and they'll talk about it with customers, they'll talk about it with people internally, and then all of a sudden they're bringing you deals, and they're like, oh, we'll get the services on it, right? And I'm like, yeah, you got it, you're in.
So
I think
it's almost
another
really
thing.
important. I was going to say real quick, just to your point, didn't mean to cut you off, but just come back to your point. It comes back to your partner profile, right? What you just
Mhm.
described is like, hey man, that's how we grow a business. That should be part of that partner
Yeah,
profile. Like
yeah,
having the different segmentation of your partnerships and how they align so that you know where you're going to lean in, which by the way helps. I hate to say it. It's we'll get to the playbook stuff, but I think it goes into the playbook so that the people that are selling, the reps, the sales engineers, the channel manager, who like they all have an understanding of, oh, this partnership, this is the go to market, this is their profile, this is where we need to lean in. Which by the way, when you have opportunities, it'll help you actually help navigate, right, that decision process.
yeah. I think the other thing that I like to utilize is bringing partners into renewals. Like I call them orphan renewals, and I usually go to our sales executives and say, "Hey, give me your orphan renewals." I'm like, "What is that?" I'm like, "Well, anything that isn't partner attached. Like if we didn't close a deal with a partner, let me have those." I said we could do a renewal with them. We could give them zero margin, because on a renewal, that might be an introduction into the partner for a new client. So they see that as like, okay, I could sell other things. I'm going to get a zero margin, no big deal. Maybe give them 3 points max on a renewal. Every sales executive is like, I can't, mess with my renewals. They're valuable. I'm like, I get it, but I also call renewal the worm on the hook, right? And you can lure in a lot of fish with that worm, right? And giving renewals to partners is a big thing. The other aspect of that is if you have a partner deal that you've closed, make sure you're coordinating with the partner and the renewal reps on your side and their side, so those renewals go through and nothing happens at the 0 hour, right? I try to do a 6 month call with the partner to understand where that customer is in terms of the renewal and get my team involved. I don't know how many times I've been involved with renewals that are like everybody forgot about, and then, oh, it's due this month. We had a deal. I think it was at Fidelis when we were there. It was like $1 million renewal, and the rep ignored it. Our rep ignored it and didn't get involved with the partner rep. And we went to renew the thing, and guess what? It didn't happen. And that was $1 million in the forecast that the CRO and the CEO are counting on.
Yeah,
So I don't like that happening. I think you got to coordinate. Renewals are so important in many regards. It's an incentive, but it's also a way to keep a customer and keep a partner happy. They love renewals. Renewals are more important to them than the first deal. The first deal
yeah.
is great. They want to live on renewals. So Talk to your partners about renewals. That's important to them.
Well, it's that repetitive, recurring revenue stream, right? Number one.
Mhm.
Number two, what you just described to me is, look, no autopilot, man. Renewals should not be
Yeah,
on autopilot. Somebody should
no.
be engaged. There should be a conversation because everybody's world is not static; it's dynamic, and
Hmm.
you got to know if something is changing in that client's environment. Number one. Number two, which actually should be number one, are we still driving value for that customer?
Hmm.
Does that customer still perceive the value that they got with the solution that is being offered? And I to your point, I think that's a big disconnect. But no, that's awesome. So what else as far as, anything else before, because I do want to kind of pivot to kind of some ways that you can drive better GP, but is there anything else like that you could think of before we make the jump?
Giving MDF, exclusive MDF. I'm not the biggest MDF fan, but I think there are times that it's beneficial. I
Interesting.
have a good friend at a company who is one of Sophos's biggest, or they are the biggest reseller in the globe for Sophos. And Sophos gives them an enormous amount of MDF, and they do a lot with it. They do marketing campaigns, they bring lunch in, they have dinners, they do a lot with that money that's kicked back to them through MDF. But I find MDF to be like a slippery subject to deal with as a
Yeah.
vendor. Partners love it, but vendors don't always love it. But it's another way to incentivize that GP. It kind of offsets the GP, you know.
Definitely. I mean, I think look, MDF is great. I think the biggest challenge with MDF is number one, having a program that outlines the MDF. Number two is having a way that you manage and track it efficiently and effectively. Um, and, I go back. I won't throw the company under the bus. It was a big company that I worked at, and they had MDF, and they said they had MDF, and what I found out was it was, how much do you need? I'm like, what? Well, we're just going to take this marketing budget, and yeah, if you're telling us that's the partner to work with, and I went, but they say they have MDF. Yeah,
Hmm.
everybody has MDF, and I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
wow,
Uh,
okay.
I
So
stay away from MDF, to be honest with you. It's tricky. As a small company, you can't really do an MDF play. It's very hard.
no, I
Um,
hear you,
you
man.
know.
I hear you. So let's kind of pivot. So one of the things that we talked about, and I was looking at my notes. So and I know it's something that's near and dear to you, right? Is the playbooks, right? Having a playbook about how you go execute this, and just like, obviously being an Eagles fan, right? You got to have a good playbook if you want to win the Super Bowl, and you want to have a good playbook if you want to win with your partnerships. So, what would you say are like the top 3 to 5 things that you can do from an execution playbook perspective to help drive better partner engagement and better GP with that partner?
Yeah, I mean, so I came up with five ways to drive that GP. I think number one is deal margin protection. If you have a program where you protect the margin when a partner brings you a deal, that's critical. Don't do a program without it, right? Set your margins, let them know that's what the margin is, and they have protection. Typically, protection is 90 days with extensions. If your product is very complicated, you might want to say it's a 180-day protection. But knowing they have that deal protected and that margin is locked in
Right.
goes a long way, right? Services and training revenue. If you can put your partner into a implementation service program for your product, goes a long way. And it also is a way for them to make GP overall because that service is 100% commission to them, 100% deal to them. And if you have to shave your margin a little bit, it doesn't hurt as much. It actually might even benefit you. Your GP could go up because of that. So I think that's a really important one. And it's helping to attract them to do more business with you because they see now your business gives them implementation and training services. Strategic spiffs. I think spiffs are kind of overdone in a lot of ways with like giving a gift card or some prize or something. I've switched to adding margin to a deal as a spiff. Like you get us a meeting, get us to a POC and close the deal. I'll give you 5 more points of margin on a deal. And quite honestly, I think reps appreciate that more than a $500 gift card, even though that's nice, having money in your
Yeah.
pocket. But
Yeah.
to them, 5 points on a deal, on $1 million deal, that's what, $50,000, something like that. It's
Yeah.
pretty nice, right?
Yeah.
So I've gone away from cash incentives and more to margin incentives, and I think that has started to raise eyebrows and get people to take a look at what we're doing and want to work with us, right? I think joint account
Interesting.
planning is critical. Um, account mapping is like like going to the dentist, but there's so many tools out there like Crossbeam that make it simple. Sit down and map out the accounts that you have common, touch points on, and map it out, and then talk about how do you strategize. It's always like a tough ask from sales reps to do that, but the ones that do it are successful because they've understood where they can maneuver with a partner and how they can get access to that client and try to close business, and then that helps with the beneficial spiff that we gave to the partner, right? But joint account planning is really, really important. And I'd say recurring revenue, helping a partner to pivot from ARR to like an MSP model, like a service model. That's a little bit more far advanced, but helping a partner understand where they can make more money around your product is probably another way to offset that GP and bump up revenue and really enhance the relationship.
Interesting. So I'm going to jump back. So I thought your third bullet was interesting, the whole spiff piece,
Mhm.
because you're kind of front loading, right? Instead of the spiff. And the other thing that I think is important is when you do a spiff, it's not tied to quota,
No,
right? And what
no.
people fail to realize is that 5 points, the reason I think that again, I could be wrong, John. The reason I think they appreciate it more is that goes towards their quota, where the spiff is done separately outside of the cycle and it's just a payment. So it's hey, I'll throw a number out there like, hey, here's $2,000 spiff on getting that deal. That's great. Where they would much rather have, like you said, whether it's an additional $50,000 in the deal, which then affects them on their quota, which they're still
Mhm.
going to get paid on, but it's more impactful to them. Not only do they
Yeah.
get paid, but it actually helps affect them from hitting their goals within the
Yeah.
organization.
That extra $50,000 on the deal is contributing to their overall number that they have to meet. They get paid a portion of that. They don't get the $50,000. The company gets it. They're getting, retiring quota on their side, and they're making a bigger commission check, obviously, because it's more revenue that they're bringing in.
Yeah,
So I think it's got to be a new way of doing things with partners. The cash incentives are nice. I'm with a small company. Like we don't have. I've seen spiffs for like 5 grand, and I'm like, whoa, I don't have that kind of money to give a partner. I'll give margin, and it's not, and it's also the cash incentives. It's a tax issue for both you and the partner, and you can avoid that by giving margins. Who cares? It's your quote. It's your price.
yeah, no, that's interesting though. No, and I do like it. I think they're really good, well-rounded points. I'll come back because I know you would put together. I don't think I have it open, but I know you would kind of put together kind of a checklist
Mhm.
around this.
Yeah, yeah,
And like, the more we talked about it, it's not just about hey, here's some great ideas and here's some things you can look at. Here's an actual physical, tactical thing that you can look to actually execute on and drive that conversation, and then make sure that you're staying in line and have the efficacy around that conversation to say, oh, did we do AB? Oh, we did ABCD. Oh wow, you know what, we didn't do F yet, so
yeah.
that's the next.
So So it's a great point. I put together 2 checklists, one for a partner to sit down with a partner and go over these points to understand how they meet their GP, what it is, what they need from you, and to plan everything else out from an account strategy. And then I did one for the vendor to talk to your sales reps. Hey, here's the steps we need to take to get to a partner to understand their GP and to do everything that's right for them. So those are available to anyone who's listening to the show. You can email us. We'll try and post them on our LinkedIn page as well. But it's a way for you to organize your business, right? And I think the partner reps appreciate when you come to them and say, how can we help you make your number, right? Because then I know as a sales rep, when I was a sales rep, somebody came to me and said, "Hey, John, I got a deal for you, and I'm gonna help you make your number this month." I'm like, "Ooh,
Right.
great, Phew. I can breathe easy. I'm not going to be putting up a zero. I'll put something on the board, right? So you're helping the partner understand, like, we want you to make money. Here's how we're going to do it, and it all comes down to like what your margin is that helps contribute to that gross profit that they need to make.
Right. Well, driving overall success for the partner, for the person, for the rep, for the team, right? No, I think that's great. So I was kind of curious, and it's because you kind of shared a couple of the stories, but two things. One, when you talk about all this, we have another podcast that we were talking about tools and
Hmm.
AI and the
Hmm.
AI tools and everything. How do you, and maybe I don't know, I mean, how would you track that unless you would need to have something? I mean, you could do it in a spreadsheet, but this is coming back to something I know is near and dear to you, bro. I know you like your PRM.
PRM, PRM. Yeah, like they're getting so advanced for things like that, like tracking those types of metrics. We just implemented a PRM called Intro, Introw. I think they're out of Germany. My mind is blown by this. My mind's blown by how good this platform is, and the way you can really help utilize a PRM with a partner is to go over, sit them down, throw up the dashboard for their particular partner account, and go over all these metrics. Deals closed in one, time to close, like days in the hopper to close, whatever. But also show them where the margin is and how the margin is contributing to the revenue. You could do all that, right? And these PRMs are just getting smarter and smarter, and they understand what is you and I need to help grow that partnership. But it's
Yeah.
definitely, data doesn't lie. You can show and prove that you're doing the things you're talking about doing, and do it through a review of their metrics.
Well, like we said earlier, I mean, it's about visibility, right? Being able to have the visibility and the evidence, right, to show that you're driving success and that you have these things, and this is proof in the pudding kind of thing. And I'm laughing, right? I didn't want to laugh out loud. I actually started to mute, but so so the solution that you have, first of all, I met the CEO Andreas at Catalyst, which is in another podcast we
Yeah,
did.
right. Yeah.
First of all, super great guy, super nice. Got a little overview demo of the product. I will tell you there's an AI capability feature in there around pardon me, around emailing
Yep.
is mind blowing.
Yep. Yeah, it does a lot of really good things. I don't want to get too deep into it, but I like having a learning module in a partner portal, and they're not there yet, but we're talking about gross profit. We're talking about money and
Yep.
showing revenue. That takes care of it, right? That's a good way to prove it out. So
No, absolutely, man. I think, and like I said, it's it's funny how the more we have these conversations and the more podcasts we do, and you're talking about the gross profit, and we start talking about the process and the procedures and things you need to do and the playbooks, it starts, and that's why I keep referencing some of the older podcasts that we did because it all starts tying together. I mean, there is a method to the madness of what we do and some of the things that we have and the tools
mhm,
and the communications and the structure and anyway. So
yeah.
I
Hey,
just thought that was
one
I
thing I
thought that
just
was
want
good.
to clarify. One thing I want to clarify.
Sure, sure.
We were talking about gross profit and defining it. Like, for those who are trying to understand this, our margin on a deal, say it's $1 million deal, and we give them 25 points. So 25 or 250,000 of that is their portion, right? Of that 250,000, they have a piece of that contributes to their GP, right? So that's probably a better explanation. We're giving them a portion of that deal. They're going to either, add it on to top of the quote, or they're going to we'll shave it off the bottom of the quote, but that's their piece. And the GP comes out of that, right? So that I should have been more clear about that.
Yeah, yeah, no worries. I mean, and look, I mean, it's it's not an exact science what we do here, but I
Mhm.
hopefully I think that point comes across. So, so let's just kind of take a step back. We're going to try to put a bow on this thing,
Mhm.
right? So give me kind of your big three. What are the big three things to look for? Your big three takeaways, as I like to say.
Yeah, I would say number one, respect your partner's GP. Respect that they have a number to make as well as you do. Understand what it is it takes for them to get to that GP. And then lastly, figure out creative ways that you
Hmm.
can help them make the GP if you have to shave margin, like services, right? Or training. Give them something that they can add on to the overall deal that helps them get to that number. If you're helping them get to their number, they will remember that. Like it's what brings them back for more and brings you into more deals. It's all about near bound, right? They're closest to the people you want to buy from. They'll help you get to all those people, but you got to help them too. Partnerships. We've said this, I think, on the first show. It's a two-way street. It's not a one-way street. Don't treat partners like they're an ATM machine of deals, right? That won't fly. Do what you have to do to help them. They will do what they have to do to help you. And it's a mutual two-way street relationship.
No, I totally agree. First of all, man, really, three great points. And again, it's not just a two-way street. You're in this journey together,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is,
Yep.
it is, you're kind of arm locked, and it's like you're on the same team, and you're there to help solve a problem for somebody, for the client, together, right? And it's about how do you do that in the most efficient way. But to your point, it's about being respectful of the business. It is still a business, and you want to be respectful of that. And so first of all, as we kind of wrap this up, I mentioned that you had a checklist, and I
Mhm.
think that's something that what we'll do is when we post this, something I know you want to share, we could share it basically through LinkedIn and through
Yep.
some of the other methods we have. Was there
Yep.
anything else you wanted to add to that?
No, I mean, I'm happy to share the checklist. I think, anytime, in fact, I might even post it on Partnership Leaders also in their forums channel. But, anytime I can help someone, I'm happy to do so. What I'm sharing is probably not something super secret or rocket science, but it's a guide. Like it highlights certain things you need to do with a partner to help them, sell more with you. GP is one aspect of it. Enablement. Do they know how to sell your product? Like go over the things that you need to do to make the partnership better. And it's a 2-page checklist. There is a scoring aspect of it, so you could go through the checklist and you could score, and you can add up the score to figure out if you're doing the right things to help your partner to get their GP.
Okay.
So I'm happy to share it. Again, you can reach me at john@channelsurfers.com, or you can reach Jeff at channelsurfers.com. And we also have our LinkedIn page you could go to.
Right. And then we're also the podcast, so we'll be on Apple Podcasts, it'll be on
Mhm.
Podcastle AI. But really, again, at the end, one of the things that I'm trying to do is look, I invite you to, give us feedback, comments,
Mhm.
feedback. When you take a look at the checklist, if you think there's something else we might want to add or something we could tweak, like John said, reach out. More than happy to do that. The whole point is how do we get better? The whole goal of this is we want to share things that we see that we've done that we know, and then start
Mhm.
to really kind of let that curate and bring in other views and perspectives. So again, John, I want to thank you, man. It was a great conversation.
Yeah.
GP. I'll never look at those two letters again the same way. Um, but
And,
no,
and it's
seriously.
not OG, I got a P. It's gross profit. Okay, just remember.
Exactly.
No, it's
But
good. Always a pleasure doing the show with you. And it's always a pleasure to help the audience learn.
awesome, man. Well, look, thank you, everybody.